when we have a difficult, painful experience, it's really tremendously important to voice it to somebody. Especially the first few times we voice it, a lot of the shame can release. You know, there's a lot of healing in sharing. But then what happens if we tell it again and again and again and again? It starts to grow in power. It changes us on a cellular level. That's neuroplasticity. It works with our mind-body network and rearranges the way that network communicates. And so when we think about psychotherapy, a therapist has the really, a therapist often hears the story over and over again, maybe in different form. So a therapist has a really challenging task of how do you receive a story and hear it empathically and yet encourage a client to transform that story? Because otherwise, we as psychotherapists can contribute to that patterning in of difficult stories. Is there anything we've left out of the mix that we could do? So there's something I like to think of as interpersonal hygiene. Like Jess talked about, which I think is wonderful, we can still tell the story, but we aware as we're doing it. Or we can start to do a little more story rationing. Mm-hmm. So it's perfectly okay to stop ourselves and say, I know what this story does. I've now experienced that. Do I need to tell it again? Or could I stop in the middle and look at it differently with this person that I'm telling it to? Or could I say to this person, oh my gosh, I realize I've told this same story 100 times. Can you help me think about it differently? Let's look at it from another angle. We can do that. Or, here's the really challenging part. We could say to someone whose stories, or difficult stories we have to listen to every day, you know, I'm not sure I can hear that at this time. Now that sounds like a really radical, very mean thing to do, right? But there are many ways we can say that. We can say to them, you know, I've discovered about myself that I'm so empathic that when I hear your story, I take it in myself and respond to it as though it were me. So I'm doing a little bit of a story diet now. Can you help me with that? Usually if you ask someone for help with something, you know, and they're at all empathic, they'll help you. So finding creative ways to say that to someone.